Okay, everybody. This is Robin born Robert Westman, the Minneapolis church shooter that shot up the Catholic Church and killed 2 children and injured something like 14 other people. Might have killed a couple other adults. I can't remember at the moment off the top of my head. But this is a trans individual. Which is the reason it's born Robert, and changed the name to Robin. So let's look into this a little bit here. Obviously a very tragic event that shouldn't have happened. So this is how it started with the earliest report from Kyle Seraphin, and this pretty much happened live on InfoWars. If you like to watch the Alex Jones show, that's where the story broke. So it says here, I'm being told the alleged shooter at the Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis was a trans-identified male. FBI and police have ID'd this male by name, which I'm withholding, etc., etc., etc. Hat tip to Kyle Seraphin and to Alex Jones and InfoWars. Actually, Alex Jones wasn't hosting at the time, but he was tuning in. Over here, another trans killer strikes again. This is going to be a little bit of a theme in this one. Why are there so many trans killers? We're going to get into that a little bit. InfoWars was the first to break the news this morning, as I said. From Alex Jones, meet Robin Westman. He says he did it for the children. So moving on here. You can always rely on the mainstream media to find a way to lie to you, can't you? So ABC News just tried to make it sound like Robin Westman was a supporter of Donald Trump. So let's see what they did here.
23-year-old Robin Westman was able to leave what police called a video manifesto that they're now going through to try and establish motive. We've also been going through it and can tell you there are crude diagrams of the church. There are also photos of the weapons, and they include all sorts of writings, the names of past mass shooters, criticism of Israel, the name of President Trump written on the...
Okay, so that's what they did. They go, the name of President Trump, and then they just leave it at that. Well, there's a very specific reason that the name of President Trump was included. It's because the killer liked to write on their magazines for their rifles. They had a bunch of guns. We'll get into that too. So it says here, kill Donald Trump. Rip and tear, or whatever. That's how it mentioned Donald Trump. But the mainstream media is not going to include that one, are they? Because, again, as I did in the video about the little Scottish girl yesterday, that would be inconvenient for the narrative, wouldn't it? So, moving on here. This is an 11-minute video posted by the school shooter today in Minneapolis. Kind of a church shooter, really. But anyway, it was posted 2 hours ago on a YouTube channel named Robin W. A channel which I think has been deleted. In it shows a manifesto and arsenal of guns. So just really fast here, like in terms of the arsenal of guns, you know, there's things like all the magazines here with all the writing on them. We're just gonna flip through this really fast here. Yeah, it's things like this, very crazy. You know, there's a manifesto. It's not a, you know, there's nothing profound in the manifesto. Oh, look here, all my bullets. It's stuff like this. More bullets, more bullets. Here they are, you know, got all this ammo. And here's that was a bomb, I believe. If I recall correctly, attached to a board or something. Oh yeah, there's all the magazines and the various rifles, shotgun, etc., and all the crazy writing that's on the magazines. Some of it's in Russian. For some reason, Cyrillic was getting used a lot. Apparently, it's a gamer thing or something. So, you know, just crazy stuff like this written on the magazines. The Trump one is somewhere in there. Suck on this. And there's obviously a lot of hate, killer sadist. Here's my writing on all the weapons, everything except for maybe this revolver. There's the Russian Cyrillic for whatever reason. So you just go through it, and it's like this, and this is just a little bit of a snapshot into an insane trans killer's mind. We didn't get this much stuff when the Nashville shooter happened, but there was, a decent amount of stuff there too. These people are not sane, so you get this sort of stuff here. So let's go move on here. Okay, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If not for leftism, gun violence in America would drop by 90%. Yep, maybe. So there's another photo of the trans killer and the one that says kill Donald Trump again. So let's jump into this here. Okay, so I've got here, tell me everything you can, scoop off of X about Robin Westman or Robert Westman. So overview of the incidents. On August 27th, 2025, a mass shooting occurred at Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota during a morning mass attended by students. Yeah, so it was mass. It wasn't a school shooting. It was mass by students and staff of the connected Annunciation Catholic School. The shooter, identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman, killed 2 children aged 8 and 10, and injured 17 others, including 14 children aged 6 to 15. It's so tragic, especially the 2 deaths, and 3 adults in their 80s. Westman died at the scene from a self-inflicted gunshot. So really this was suicide, but let me just kill some children on my way out. And we're going to get into the suicide as well. What might be behind that. The attack is being investigated by the FBI as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. So Robin Westman was born Robert Westman, changed the name to Robin. That happened at age 17, which means that the mother, I had something earlier, I think I got rid of it. The mother, there was a photo of her. She must have allowed it if he was 17. So she's a monster as well. It's just sad, but Minneapolis is one of the bluest strongholds in the United States. The residents, that was around Minneapolis. Education went to the Annunciation Catholic School. There's that as well. Employment, worked at Rise Medical Cannabis Dispensary. And this is the crazy mom that let him transition at 17. And he had no significant criminal history. And so the social media, he had the YouTube videos that we saw a little bit of. So we've seen videos and stuff, and there were slurs, anti-Semitic, racist slurs, things like this. The 4-page handwritten manifesto, a sticker with LGBTQ plus, blah, blah, blah. And so details of the shooting. Around 8:30 a.m. during a morning mass marking first week of school year. Location, weapons used. Westman was armed with a legally purchased rifle, shotgun, and pistol, all used during the attack. A smoke bomb was also found at the scene. Westman, dressed in all black, approached the church, barricaded at least 2 doors with wooden planks. Probably would have helped if there had been a little bit of security around. Otherwise, it would have been hard to barricade doors with security. Security would need to have been armed, of course, and fired dozens of rounds through stained glass windows, targeting children and worshipers in the pews. It is unclear if any. Having gone there, Westman probably knew where to start shooting, right through the stained glass, knowing that there are pews there. It is unclear if any of the shots were fired inside the church, as no bullet casings were found indoors. Westman died by suicide in the rear of the church. And then we've gone over, there were 2 children and a bunch of others injured. And we'll skip that there. And so the police statements, deliberate act of violence, confirmed the 3 weapons, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go to the conclusion here. Robert Westman, transgender and former student at Annunciation School, carried out a premeditated shooting at the school's church on August 27th, killing 2 children and injuring 17 others. The attack involved legally purchased firearms, a smoke bomb, and barricaded doors, with evidence of planning in YouTube videos and a manifesto expressing self-hatred, fascination with mass shooters, and hateful rhetoric. The Minneapolis police and FBI are investigating with no clear motive yet established, other than being a crazy trans person who was another suicidal one. And let's move on here. So there's not much. If somebody wants to know exactly what this manifesto says, and this fits in Cyrillic here, if anybody wants to know exactly what it says, you can just type in Robin Westman, and this is one of the things that you'll find. It's a post by William Taylor, and it explains what this says. Like, it's getting tiring to keep pretending I'm a serious long-term gun owner. It's not groundbreaking stuff. I just saw the word yippee for some reason. Oh God, I need to get this done for my goal. But yeah, but it's not riveting stuff. So let's move on here to this part. So why does this happen? And this won't be the last one, and it's also not the first that trans person went violent. So I said here, can you dig up any statistics on trans people versus the general public about taking antidepressant medication along with rates of suicide? Because remember, even though Robin Westman shot up a Catholic church and killed a couple people and a couple kids and injured a bunch of others, ultimately this was a suicide. Robin Westman committed suicide and just took more lives on the way down. So data on mental health outcomes, including antidepressant and suicide rates, shows significant disparities between transgender and gender diverse TGT individuals and general population. So there was a study in Sweden found that transgender individuals with a diagnosis of gender incongruence were 3 times more likely to be prescribed antidepressants compared to the general population. And then going down here to suicide rates and behaviors, transgender and gender diverse TGT individuals, the Williams Institute 2023 found that 81% of transgender adults in the US have considered suicide at some point. 81% considered suicide at some point. 42% have attempted suicide, and 44% reported recent suicidal ideas within the past year. Additionally, 7% reported a recent suicide attempt. Imagine if out of 100 people that you knew 7 of them recently tried to commit suicide and failed. A suicide attempt. And 21% engaged in a non-suicidal self-injury. So they're also self-harming. Okay. So a 2024 Canadian study reported lifetime suicide attempt prevalence among TGT individuals at 32.6%, 95%. I'm not sure exactly how to read all that. I'll skip it. The same Canadian study found that 62.2% of TG individuals reported lifetime suicide ideation compared to 11.1% of cisgender individuals, adjusted risk, etc. So key observations: antidepressant use. TGT individuals are prescribed antidepressants at higher rates than the general population. So higher rates of suicide, antidepressants at higher rates. Big surprise. What if the antidepressants aren't helping? What if they're part of this rather than supposedly helping? Reflecting a higher prevalence of mood disorders like depression and anxiety. For example, the Canadian study found a lifetime depression prevalence of 63.7% among TGT individuals versus 13.7% for cisgender individuals. I believe that this goes on to say that it's because they're not receiving the proper care. If you believe that, I've got an amazing bridge to sell you in China. Yeah, they just need more care. That's the problem. So suicide disparities. TG individuals face significantly higher risk of suicide ideation, attempts, and hospitalizations compared to the general population. This is attributed to minority stress. Yeah, it's because of discrimination, I'm sure. Family rejection and barriers to gender. They're just barriers to gender affirming care. That's the problem. It's not something else. Like, let's think about SSRIs, the drugs that they're on. What do those do? And so let's move on here. So is there any evidence that Robin Westman, the Minneapolis church shooter, was on any kind of antidepressant medication? I think that it's obvious that she probably was, or he probably was. There is no definitive evidence in the provided sources that confirms Robin Westman, the identified suspect in the Minneapolis Annunciation Catholic Church shooting on August 2017, was taking antidepressant medication. However, some relevant points can be noted. References to depression. One source mentions that Westman referred to personal depression in a video posted to YouTube, which was part of a manifesto-like content uploaded before the attack. This suggests Westman may have experienced mental health challenges. Okay, so speculation on social media. A post on X from this person speculates that given Westman's mention of depression, they were more than likely on Prozac or Zoloft. However, this is an unverified claim from a social media user and not supported by official reports or law enforcement statements. We may never find out what medication Westman was taking, if any. Manifesto content. The Economic Times reports that Westman's manifesto expressed severe depression, suicidal thoughts. These are all things that go along with being medicated, and a long-standing desire to commit violence. While this indicates significant mental health issues, there is no specific mention of antidepressant medication use in the manifesto or related reports. By the way, you don't just learn that people are medicated. So we have to assume that Westman probably was. It seems obvious that she probably was, or he probably was. While Westman reported references to depression suggest mental health struggles, there is no concrete evidence in the available sources confirming the use of antidepressant medication. The speculation on X about Prozac or Zoloft is not substantiated by official reports and should not be considered reliable. I think it is fairly reliable, personally. I disagree with you here, Grok. And so they're still investigating, etc., etc., etc. So we have a huge mental health problem. The drugs are not helping, and I think at some point you start looking at something that's not helping as probably being part of the problem. And I suspect that that's the case with all these mental health issues in the trans community. This was not the first trans violence. We had most notably the one in Nashville, and it will certainly not be the last. So if this kind of content is for you, please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks, everybody. Base Gardening out.